The most profound impact of the American Indian on the development of our nation is reflected in our very form of government. The distinctive political ideals of American life emerged from a rich Indian democratic tradition. That tradition can be traced to documents here in the National Archives. Universal suffrage for women, the pattern of states within a state, the tradition of treating chiefs as servants of the people instead of their masters, the demand that the community respect the diversity of men and their dreams. All of these things were part of the American way of life long before the arrival of Columbus. The first regional democratic governing body in what is now the United States was not the Continental Congress, which met at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Even the Virginia Colonial Assembly, meeting here in Williamsburg, was a latecomer in the field of representative government. The first was an organization known as the League of Five Nations, or the Iroquois League. It was established sometime prior to 1600 to unite 5 Iroquoian nations in order to solve mutual problems. This Iroquois beaded belt tells the story of the member nations uniting. They adopted an oral constitution and a governing council of 50 representatives. The council dealt with items affecting the entire group, but left purely tribal matters up to each individual Iroquois nation. The original 5 were the Onondaga, depicted in a Turtle Clan meeting here, the Seneca, Cayuga, Oneida, and Mohawk nations. 104 years after its formation, the League added a 6th nation, the Tuscarora. Women had a strong voice in the Iroquois society. The clan mother selected the chiefs and was the most powerful figure in a strong local form of government. Iroquois women owned the family crops and houses and had voting rights. Although outnumbered by rival Algonquian tribes, the Iroquois became the dominant force in the Northeast following the formation of the Iroquois League. That league continues to operate today. Artist Oren Lyons is a sub-chief in the Turtle Clan in the Onondaga Nation. He teaches Native American studies at Buffalo University. The Onondaga chief says the U.S. governmental ideals can be traced to the Iroquois League. Prior to drawing up his Albany Plan of Union for the colonies in 1754, Benjamin Franklin requested a meeting with the Iroquois League chiefs to learn more about the Indian Confederacy. Chief Lyons recounts the substance of the meeting between colonial leaders and the Iroquois chiefs.
And it was suggested at that time by an Onondaga chief that the colonies unite in a form of government that was similar to ours, that would represent the people. The format is very ancient, and this is the format that was taken by the 13 colonies originally, the Articles of Confederation.
There is ample evidence that Franklin was influenced by the Iroquois Confederacy when he did draw up the Albany Plan. Moreover, that plan was followed essentially more than 20 years later in the Articles of Confederation, the forerunner of the United States Constitution. Ben Franklin put it this way in his argument for colonial union.
It would be a very strange thing if 6 nations of ignorant savages should be capable of forming a scheme for a union, and yet that a like union should be impracticable for 10 or a dozen English colonies to whom it is more necessary.
In addition to Franklin, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were familiar with the Iroquois League. The founders of our nation were facing the problem of uniting sovereign states when they wrote the United States Constitution. And they did adopt ideas from the Iroquois League.
Immediately, always they were warned.
Ray Fadden, a Mohawk, is curator of the Six Nations Museum in Onchiota, New York. An expert on the Iroquois Confederacy, Fadden says our form of government was not born from European ideals.
Over here in America, those chiefs were representatives, something like Congress, I suppose. They simply represented their clans, and since everyone belonged to a clan, in plain English, they represented their people. Were put in office by their people to represent them in their government.